Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. Should Tesla buy Uber? Let's go ahead and explore that idea. So this was proposed by Gary Black on X. Gary Black runs a fund called FFND, the Future Fund, and I'll just read some excerpts from what he said regarding Tesla potentially buying Uber. He begins by saying, not sure why Tesla doesn't just buy Uber to get into autonomous ride-hailing and get all the data from its platform of 137 million consumers who take 25 million chips per day. This was posted on August 2nd, which was yesterday. Now, he continues by saying Uber is the entrenched leader in ride-hailing. They have made clear they will go autonomous when the tech is ready. Tesla can't just wave its magic wand and replace them. Building ride-hailing from scratch would lose Tesla money for years. Look at Lyft. Tesla starting its own ride-hailing network has no guarantee of success competing against Uber, which over time would replace its cars with autonomous vehicles, either from Tesla or other manufacturers. And lastly, one of the last excerpts I want to highlight here, look forward. Add full self-driving hardware and software to all 6 million Ubers. Now, do you get it? So what's interesting about this proposal is that Uber is currently worth almost $100 billion as of the date of this recording, which then means that Tesla would have to raise an additional 100 billion plus to be able to buy Uber, either by using its own funds or by raising the money by taking out loans or whatever other measure. From my standpoint, this is how I'm summarizing this thought process from Gary, and you let me know if I got this right in the comment section below. So Gary thinks that access to 137 million customers, driving data via some sort of retrofit or by having an autonomous fleet in Uber already, and a quick go-to-market strategy is what justifies the $100 billion acquisition plus that Tesla would undergo. However, it's really important to view this acquisition through the lens of self-driving and it being solved, since that's what Tesla is very heavily working on, and that's what Uber's long-term plans are, is to shift its fleet to self-driving cars. It needs to be viewed through that lens. Now, from my perspective, I don't think this is a good idea, and I have a bunch of different reasons why, and you let me know in the comments section if you agree with me or disagree with me. I would love to hear your thoughts below. So I want to highlight some comments from Elon Musk, who's the CEO of Tesla, that are related to Tesla's bottlenecks around solving for autonomy. So here's a comment from the latest Q2 2023 earnings. I want to say that the fundamental rate limiter on the progress of full self-driving is training, but that's if we had more training compute, we would get it done faster. So that's it. So it's how much compute they have, how much hardware they have to solve for full self-driving is the current bottleneck. A recent post from Elon Musk on X really highlights exactly what kind of data they're missing. And this is where I think the Uber acquisition misses the mark. Vehicle control is the final piece of the Tesla full self-driving AI puzzle. That will drop about 300,000 lines of C++ control code. This is basically a programming language by 2 orders of magnitude. So we go from 300,000 lines of code to 3,000 lines of code. It is training as I write this. Our progress is currently training compute constrained, not engineering constraint. The big bottleneck as it stands today is not data, it's compute. Data is not the limiting factor, and Tesla needs more compute to solve full self-driving. And so the thought process becomes, why would you spend $100 billion to make a bottleneck worse, where we stand today? Now, let's fast forward into the future, like Gary has asked us to do. Tesla has plans to increase their compute power to 100 exaflops by October of 2024, which is actually basically, 100xing or whatever the number is, their compute power, probably closer to 30, 40x their compute power in the next year and a half. And so under that scenario, once they get to say 100 exaflops, let's assume that the data becomes the bottleneck. They move away from the compute being the bottleneck and the data, the actual gathering of data becoming the bottleneck. This is where it gets a little weird from the standpoint of spending $100 billion to get access to a fleet of cars. So by the time Tesla achieves that compute number, let's say, in the next year or so, Tesla would have added an additional 2 million cars to the fleet in that 12 to 18 month period, at least another 2 million. And in 2 more years, they would have added probably around 3 million units as they scale up Austin, Berlin, and they introduce a Cybertruck, and they're on the cusp of introducing their compact car. So in just 2 years, they've added almost 5 million or more vehicles to their existing fleet of cars. And so by year 3, Tesla adds new cars to the fleet fleet that's almost as big as Uber's current fleet of 6 million vehicles. And so that doesn't include the existing fleet of about 3 million plus Teslas on the road right now. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's around 3 million right now. And so you add 3 million to 5 million, all of a sudden Tesla has a fleet that's bigger than what Uber has. And so I'm curious what data will be missing by then if Tesla has the ability to have a fleet that can generate the data. By the time the Uber deal closes as well, let's say Tesla goes in and says, hey, I'm going to buy Uber today and we're going to roll them into Tesla. By the time that deal closes, which will probably take a year or two, Tesla would have added enough cars to the fleet to equal Uber's size, right? So even if you go ahead and buy them, Tesla would have added so many cars to the fleet that Uber, I don't know where the advantage is there. So you tell me in the comment section below. Next, I want to hit the complexity of retrofit, which is another thing that Gary was talking about, and some of the complexities there. If you're enjoying so far, throw me a like. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. So there was a comment recently from Elon Musk about retrofitting hardware 4, which is the latest hardware that Tesla uses in their self-driving vehicles. Elon Musk was asked, and this is from Inside EVs, Elon Musk was asked if current Tesla owners would be able to retrofit the latest generation autopilot computer onto their current cars, to which he responded with, the cost and difficulty of retrofitting a hardware 3 with hardware 4 is quite significant, so it would not be, I think, economically feasible to do so. So then the question becomes, if it's difficult with Teslas to retrofit the current hardware, how much more difficult would it be in a non-Tesla gas car, which is the majority of Uber's fleet? So from Gary's standpoint, if the thought process is, well, we're going to purchase Uber, retrofit the cars, and collect data that way, sounds like Tesla is against retrofitting the current hardware on existing Teslas. And gas cars don't have electric motors. They don't have the different systems that Tesla uses for controlling the self-driving car. So what value... So like, what are we doing here, I guess, is the broader question. I don't understand how that would bring any value to Tesla from that perspective. How else would Uber gather data that's relevant for Tesla if it wasn't for the retrofit? And maybe that's where you guys can help me understand this better, or I'm sure Gary and I will get into this on X later, or maybe he'll come on the show and we'll debate it. I'd be curious to hear his thoughts. And if it requires a Tesla, let's say Uber would require a Tesla in its fleet to be able to gather the data, isn't it redundant to buy Uber to get the data when Tesla is already getting the data, right? If it's exclusive to just Teslas, that data that they're gathering, why sell the car to Uber and then buy Uber and then double up the data you're getting already when the Tesla car is already sending that data back to the mothership? It's just interesting. I don't know. I'm not understanding that at all. So help me understand in the comment section potentially. And then this additional point on retrofit, what data is exclusive to Uber that Tesla and X don't have access to that is worth $100 billion? I'm not really sure, outside of maybe specific routes that they're running or what time people like to ride hail. Is that really worth $100 billion, or is that something that Tesla could generate by just creating their own network? I don't know. And the last point I want to hit here is the go-to-market strategy. So what Gary highlights is, hey, it's going to be very hard to ramp up your app for, especially when you're trying to go against Uber, who's been around forever and people love using Uber, 100 some odd million customers, and you'd be able to go way faster to reach that point that Uber has. Okay, so let's explore that idea. From the standpoint of Tesla running a self-driving fleet of robotaxis, that is limited by the number of self-driving Teslas on the road. So let's think about that. So really, you can run this software or this service only in places where you have self-driving Teslas. And so because of this, the rollout of this taxi fleet is going to be gradual by nature. It's going to take time. Tesla will be able to flip the switch, but they're only going to be able to operate this in places where Tesla is able to have a self-driving vehicle ready for them to either supply it themselves or somebody wants to add it to the fleet using the Tesla app in the future. Now, what's interesting about that though is that the overhead to operate that fleet, basically how many people you need to run the fleet, is going to be significantly lower to do. You don't have to worry about drivers. You don't have to worry about 1099s, which is basically the forms you have to have the drivers file with the government saying that they're working for Uber, and then Uber has to take responsibility there, plus customer service. God knows what other things Uber has to do. So once you remove the driver from the equation, you don't have to worry about anything like that anymore. So when you buy Uber, you're taking on all those costs that don't exist in a driverless fleet. And because there is no driver, the cost of Tesla rides in that robotaxi fleet will be significantly cheaper than an Uber ride today. And this really breaks how we should think about Uber and their valuation, and why Tesla doing this on their own makes a lot more sense than purchasing Uber, in my opinion. So right now, Uber takes about 30% of the share cost when, say, you go to the airport. So I'll use my example for this specific situation. So I pay about $80 if I wanted to take Uber from my house down to the airport here in Austin. So if Uber were to keep 30%, Uber keeps $24. And then say I'm giving the ride in the Uber, I keep $56. However, if you remove the driver, again, this is a self-driving robotaxi fleet that Tesla would be able to provide under their own umbrella. Say Tesla keeps the same 30%. Tesla keeps $24, right? But let's just assume anyway, let's double the price of that $24 for, say, cleaning fee and the fee for the fleet operator if, say, Tesla's not providing it, right? Because there's no driver anymore. Really, you just want costs to be able to pay for electricity, which is a fraction of gas, and also make sure the car is nice and tidy and it's up to date with maintenance and whatever else you need to do with that car. You no longer have to pay for the hourly fee for the car for your time to drive the car. You just have to pay for the other stuff, and that other stuff is way cheaper than the driver. But let's just assume it's double the price of what Tesla would take home in this scenario. That's a $50 ride. So $24 cut for Tesla, double it for the other stuff, that's $48. Let's just assume $50. And so the question becomes, this is really where this whole acquisition really doesn't make sense to me. Why would you spend $100 billion on purchasing Uber when the cost of a ride is 40% less at that $50 versus the $84 and massively disrupts the incumbent because of that price cut? And so maybe I'll ask you this question. Would you use Uber at $84, or would you use Tesla's robotaxi fleet at $50, let's say, for the same exact ride, same exact experience, and you're riding in privacy? You don't have a driver there. Maybe you don't want to strike up a conversation, or you just like being alone for that specific ride. It's cheaper with privacy versus buying a company, taking on all their overhead, taking on all their costs, and then when you release your self-driving car, you do what with that, right? I'm just having a very tough time understanding that piece of it. Why would anyone use Uber when they can get the same ride for much less? How much is Uber worth with Tesla's network live? If Tesla is able to release a robotaxi network where the costs are much less, in that world, how much is Uber worth? Will people still be using Uber, right? And that's really the acquisition cost of Uber. It's not $100 billion. It's how much is Uber worth if and when Tesla releases the robotaxi network. And again, this is centered around the fact that there's no driver to pay. You remove the largest cost variable out of the equation, which is what allows Uber to exist, is to have a collection of drivers that are willing to use the app to generate money and to offer a service. Uber is a software company that enables drivers with bandwidth to find a customer quickly. That's really what Uber is. In my opinion, it's a service provider marrying up drivers that want to give rides to customers who want to find a driver through an app. And that's what Uber really, really is. But then you compare this to Tesla and the moat that they have. Tesla owns its app that it uses right now that they can turn into that ride-sharing app, let's say. They also own the training data because their cars are the things that generate the data. They own the compute, which is the thing they use to take the data and make it into something usable. And they own the cars. They make the cars. They make the cars that actually give you a ride from point A to point B without a driver. Tesla owns 100% of pieces needed to run a robotaxi network in-house. And Uber owns the app, and that's it. In a world where Tesla launches robotaxi on its network, in my opinion, Uber is worth $0. And so again, why would Tesla spend $100 billion plus to buy an app, which in my opinion is completely worthless in the world of self-driving cars where you don't need a driver anymore to operate that car, especially when you're the company that creates the cars? Why pay $100 billion for a company that offers no value in a self-driving world? And this is where I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below or on the replies below. If you're listening to this on X, let me know. maybe I'm missing something. I'm thinking about this incorrectly. Maybe it's because the price tag is so big. I just, maybe I'm like, no, it's too expensive. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, let me know what I'm missing. And if Gary, if you're watching this, if you want to come on the show and talk about it, let me know. I'd love to talk to you. You've been on the show multiple times. I consider you somebody that I really trust and I really respect. I just don't, this one I don't get. So maybe you can help me understand. Real quick, if you do want to subscribe, about 56% of you are not subscribed. I would love it if you subscribe to my channel, especially if you're somebody who watches often. I would really appreciate your support, but if not, that's okay too. It's completely up to you. Love your support regardless and you stopping here and watching my videos. And if you want to support the channel, I have merch and a coupon for Athletic Greens, which is a supplement I take every single morning with free travel packs and vitamin D in the description below. Links for that in the description. Oh my God. Okay, we'll do it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative and helpful, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.